And welcome to today's edition of Kunle Today. And today we're dealing with the three S's of effective presentations. What are they? How can you use them? How can you make them work for yourselves? Now, imagine standing in front of a live audience and everybody welcomes you with a massive applause, and you're given the mic, and it's your go. You try your best to start speaking, but no words are coming out. When you realize this, your hands start to shake, your knees start to buckle, and you just suddenly start vibrating in front of a live audience. What are you going to do at that point? You're going to keep on trying, I suppose, and it gets worse because now you're vibrating on the spot. The host comes and collects you from the stage. What are you going to do after that? How are you going to feel? How are you going to look at yourself in the mirror? You've got hundreds of eyes staring at you, and you couldn't perform. I imagine that's going to be your worst nightmare. For me, it wasn't a nightmare, it was my reality. And that's my first experience standing in front of a live audience trying to present an idea that I was passionate about. Now, you may think, wow, my goodness, Kunle, that's probably not real. I will tell you that it is real, and I will give you more information about how real it can be, not just for you, but how real it is for many, many, many people. And if you fast forward that to today, and what I do for a living is literally help people share their ideas, their information, and whatever product or service they're working on, how to share that with lots of people and do that with ease and with confidence. How does that work? Well, it's not rocket science. After that experience, that I was left on the stage to start speaking and I couldn't do anything, I walked away knowing that I'm missing something. And that something is not passion. That something is not knowledge. That something is not experience. That something is a skill. Like Shakespeare said, nothing is good or bad in itself, but our thinking makes it so. My thinking from that day, first of all, apart from all the humiliation and all the things, all the negative thoughts, because when you see all this eyes poking into your skin and you couldn't deliver, you have a different view of yourself. Your self-esteem, mine certainly went out the window. And my self-esteem, my self-image, self-belief, all these things, it was low. But from that point on, going back to the words of Shakespeare, saying nothing is bad or good in itself, but our thinking makes it so. So I started to think, how does it work with some people who are able to just present on the go? Apparently, what I learned is not lack of passion, lack of information, or lack of experience. It is that its presentation skills are learnable. I learned that anyone can learn the skill of presenting, just like people learn the skill of reading, people learn the skill of writing, people learn the skill of driving. Presentation skills are also learnable. Then I got on my journey and started to learn how to make effective presentations. And today, by the way, I teach audiences of any size worldwide how to make effective presentations, both to small groups, large groups, and beyond. This is what I do. If I can do that, anybody can do that as well, including yourself. And that is the presentation truth. And that's the universal truth I tend to work with. That's what we teach our presentation school. Anybody can learn this skill. It's not rocket science. Even rocket science is learnable. Anyway, welcome. My name is Kunle, and I'm the founder of Presentation School. I've spent over a decade, helping people, helping organizations to transform their presentation skills, transform their fear of public speaking into communication passion, if you will, into a powerful tool that they use for personal and professional connection. And today we're going to look at the three, what I call, but today we're going to look at what I call the three S's of presentation. Well, that those three S's make your presentation content like very solid into something that people find very hard to ignore or not pay their attention to. So today you learn the framework. Today, you learn the super simple framework that I personally use to craft compelling presentations and that I share with my learners as well. The thing is, once you've learned this, your presentation journey will never be the same again. Let's get started. And by the way, these three S's, they're based on the essential elements that every solid presentation contains. If you are able to, when you're preparing your presentation and you put these three S's into them, you find out that your audience will engage with you more, your information will become more relatable and more memorable. And the three S's are: first, number one, story; number two, start; and number three, science. Those three are the S's that change the game when it comes to presentations. And by the end of our time together today, you understand the importance of stories when you're making a presentation. You understand also the importance of stats and science. And of course, you learn the practical techniques that you can use to incorporate these three S's into your next presentation. Having said that, to cap that up, you'll discover how to manage and overcome the basic presentation anxiety. Now, this is an addition to what you're going to get. The core of what we're covering today will be the three S's, but in between that is the hidden information on how you can gain confidence and deliver impactful presentations to audiences of any size. Now let's talk about stories. Storytelling, as you can imagine, is a fundamental part of the human experience. It started from way back long ago, and that's how people shared information, or they transferred information from generation to generation. And that's why they engage us, they move us, and they make information more memorable. That's why stories are quite important. As the author said, Philip Pullman, he said that after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing that we need the most in the world. Pardon me. Stories are the things that we need the most in the world. Now, a good story can transform a very dry, boring presentation. It can transform that into a captivating narrative that people will just their eyes are almost popping off their head because of the way that the story is crafted and because of the way that the story is told. And when you weave that into a professional presentation, if you will, it connects with your audience on an emotional level. And people tend to think, oh, when I'm doing a professional presentation, I can't use stories. That is not true. When you use stories, you make your message more relatable. What's important? To stay professional or to make your message relatable and memorable? I will guess the latter is the answer. So If you think back to my opening story, that experience of mine freezing on stage is something that I personally would never forget. And it was a painful moment for me forever. And by sharing that information with you, by sharing that story with you, being willing to be vulnerable, that vulnerable experience, by sharing that with you, I hope that I made my message more relatable. That was the goal, to make my message more relatable, to show you that even someone like myself who teaches presentation skills to people, I had to start from somewhere. I faced the same challenges, the same fears, the same failures that many people face today. So if you're going through that journey, you're not alone. And that is the why of using stories in your presentations. It helps you connect with the people, put you in their shoes, and put them in your shoes. So you're experiencing the same thing. So if you wanted to use stories in your presentations, here are some tips on how you can do that. Number one, you include your personal experiences. There's nothing beats that. When you're telling a story, sharing a personal experience, sharing your own journey, then you build rapport with your audience. That's what you're doing. You're building rapport and you are illustrating your points as you go along. Whatever you're doing, you want to make sure that your audience can relate with your story. Bring it back to the main idea of your presentation. And number two, you can use case studies. You use real world examples to show how your ideas have been applied in the past successfully. You can do that. And then you can bring that again back to the subject matter. That's quite important. And finally, you want to bring compelling characters into your story. You want to introduce people to your audience who they can connect with and supposedly they can root for. They want that person to win, somebody in their side of the journey, so to say. So effective storytelling basically isn't just about entertainment. It's about creating a connection that goes beyond excuse me, is about creating a connection that goes beyond the spoken word and that lingers in the hearts of your audience as well as their minds long after your presentation is over. Annette Simmons, the author of The Story Factor, I remember her quote. She says that people don't want more information. I would imagine you'll agree with that. But because people are up to their eyeballs in information already, what they want faith. They want faith in you. They want faith in your goals and they want faith in your plans. And she says that stories are how you build that faith. That's in a nutshell the story part of the S. Now let's talk about stats. People often think of presentations as primarily about content. People think presentation is about information, content, just throw it on the table and that's it. But the fear and the anxiety that is around presentation is a significant problem. It's not just a minor discomfort or people are not really comfortable in front of people. No, 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 no. It's a widespread issue. I mean, it affects millions and millions of people. It hinders their personal and professional lives. And that's something we want to avoid if we can. And I think that everybody should, but everybody can. From my personal and my professional experience, the emotional impact of a presentation From my personal and professional experience, the emotional impact of a presentation is when it goes the wrong way, that impact is unimaginable. And if you look at the data available to us, it reveals that the scope of this challenge is, wait a minute, are we still live? Are we still on? Um, yeah, we are not live. Are we still? Is it still working? Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, we're back on. We're on. Okay, good. So we want to. We left off at the data behind. We left off at the data behind presentations, because it's literally a worldwide challenge. I want you to consider the statistics that are available to us is out there. It is said that around 75%, it is said that around 75% of the population, of the human population, experiences some degree of fear of public speaking or presentation. What that means is that a large majority of us, maybe even 3 out of every 4 of us, have this fear. And that's a massive, massive number. If you would you agree? They struggle with this fear of anxiety, fear of presenting in front of others, standing and sharing their ideas. That's a big number. And studies show that a significant percentage of individuals, studies show that a significant percentage of individuals with social anxiety, actually, and social disorder, they also experience a fear of public speaking. They also experience that to some degree. And what this means is that there is a strong link between social anxiety and specific challenges of communication and presentation. I am wondering if we are live. How can I prove this? And unfortunately, because of what's going on, many people avoid career paths, or they miss opportunities for advancement due to their fear of public speaking. And this fear can have tangible negative consequences, of course, on people's livelihoods, you can imagine, and their relationships and their aspirations. So these statistics basically tell us something. It paints a clear picture. And the clear picture being, look, anxiety is a widespread problem, period. It, it's not simply a matter of being a little nervous when you're in front of people. It's a widespread problem. 75% of mankind, I mean, think about it. It's a significant obstacle that can hold people back. And when you understand the magnitude of what we're dealing with, we can better appreciate the importance of developing effective strategies with which we can deal with this matter. And I like what Hans Rosling said. He's a renowned global expert and on health. He said that you can have data without having a meaningful story, and you can have a meaningful story without having good data, but you need both. So you want to make sure that data and story, you want to make sure that your stats and your story, you want to make sure that they are nicely combined. And finally, we look at science. And science is to just we want to look at what is the science behind overcoming the fear of presentation. and public speaking. If you understand the psychological and physiological factors that contribute to the fear, that can empower you as an individual to develop effective strategies for managing that fear. And presentation anxiety, by the way, is a very, very real and very, very common phenomenon. It's rooted in our evolutionary, if you will, how we develop our fight and or flight responses. It's and this is triggered whenever we perceive threat. I mean, if you're around the corner and there's a lion down the road, you want to be able to fly it. I don't think you want to fight a lion. You just want to take off. And when people are standing in front of an audience, it's like a lion is coming to them because of this eyes piercing into their souls, if you will. And then this fight or flight response is naturally triggered. And when this response, unfortunately, when this response is activated, many part of our logical operating system, if you will, takes a break. And our bodies release hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, which can cause a range of physical symptoms, such as increased heart rate. Your heart is pumping blood. What begins to happen? You start to sweat. And that's what I experienced when I was in front of an audience. And then you are trembling and you're maybe even feeling like throwing up in front of in front of your audience. Why? Because these symptoms, by the way, can be very distressing and they can significantly impair your ability to speak effectively. You lose your train of thoughts, and then when this response is activated, your body releases these hormones again, adrenaline, cortisol, and all this. Once they are released into your system, boom, you are in the fight or flight mode. It's no longer your fault that you can't speak. It's no longer your fault that you can't contain yourself. These hormones have taken over, and the next logical thing to do is to collect yourself, get off of the danger zone. And again, there's not there's nothing wrong with you when you experience that. It's your human nature. It's you being you. It's everything in your body working for you, working to protect you and removing you from danger. So there's nothing wrong with that. But the good news around that problem is that research in neuroscience shows that the brain is highly adaptable. That means that by the way, that this adaptability is known as neuroplasticity, which means that with deliberate practice, we can actually rewire our brains to be less and less reactive to those triggers that cause presentation anxiety. That means you can train yourself and become less anxious when you get in front of people. And if you think back to the feeling that I described, if you think back to the frozen terror that I experienced, it's a feeling that many, many people know. And maybe some even know them intimately. But as I discovered, and I hope as you now understand, that feeling that way doesn't have to be a life sentence. It can be something that you train yourself to deal with, because presentation skills are not some mystical talent that is reserved for a chosen few. Presentation skills are learnable. You can learn them and they are developable. You can develop them and they are within your reach. And when you intentionally incorporate these three elements, stories, stats, and science, into your presentation content, you're not just sharing information. What you're doing is you're creating an experience. And when you use stories for human connection, when you use stats to solidify your information, and you use science to give a lot of power to the knowledge that you are putting on the table, you're doing what needs to be done. That means you're building trust, you're demonstrating the impact, as well as you're grounding your message in reality. So it's real, it's relatable, and it's actionable. And that's what you want. So you want to start your presentation journey today. And what you can do today is embrace the learning. You know that with each story that you share, each statistic that you present, and each scientifically informed insight that you offer, what you're doing is, first of all, you're strengthening your presentation muscle, if you will, and you are building confidence, and you are building capability as well. In the final analysis, your journey to becoming a compelling presenter begins with conscious application of the main ideas that we've talked about here, these three S's. So when you want to do your next presentation, sit down and think about, before you start firing up your slide decks, or before you start designing PowerPoints and all these things, you want to first sit down and say, this topic that I want to talk about, what information, what stats are available out there in regarding this topic? But most essentially, where has my life intersected with the ideas I'm about to share? What is my experience with this? If you don't have any, what case studies do you have at your office with your colleagues? What case studies can you incorporate into the material that you're about to present? You need to do some fact finding, you need to do some digging and soul searching, if you will, or ask people around you to collect stories or case studies that pertain to the particular topic you want to talk about. That's number one. Number two, you want to do a bit of research, and in today's world, if you're not using the AI for your work, you're gone with the dinosaurs. So you want to go back, ask the AI what stats, what information is out there that is proven, that is credible around the topic that you want to talk about, so that you can collect quite easily in today's world. And finally, science. And this is where I say that for whatever topic you're sharing, the more you know, the easier it is for you to load that information, to load that presentation with your passion. So do a bit of research, study around it. Hopefully it's your sweet spot, and if it's not, the more you learn, the sweeter the spot becomes. So all those three, you combine them into your narrative. Once you're done with that, then you start to organize them as into a sequence, A, B, C, and you build transitions in between. I said all that to say this: the three S's will help you create the three S's will help you create compelling content that your audience will be like, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, that's just like me. That's what I experienced. Oh, wow, that's what's happening in my office at the moment. That's what's happening in my team at the moment. You cannot, I can't tell you how many times that has happened. I've put together lots and lots of training in the past where the audience is just saying to me, wow, this is exactly what is going on, and this is exactly what we need to know, because you took time to put the work together, because your audience deserves it. I trust that this time has been very insightful for you, as much as it has been for me to put it together. I want to wish you a great weekend ahead, or a great time ahead, but most importantly, I want to wish you I want to wish you Godspeed in your presentation journey. I will see you next time. Until then, present with passion and keep your flag flying.